people always ask me about like how did I get to the point where I am now, and so I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I've also learned quite a bit along the way as well. So I'm gonna share some tips and pointers with you all. What's up, y'all? It's your girl V Nicole, and today we're talking about professional do's and don'ts. I'm really excited to be sharing some just tips and pointers that have helped me along the way, and hopefully they'll help you as well. And this video is sponsored by my girl, Leslie. You should go check out her podcast, Let's Be Real. And I went ahead and featured her most recent podcast, The Unemployment Line. Go check her out and tell her I sent you. Professional do's and don'ts. Take one. For the job search, right? As you start to look for opportunities, the first thing that you want to do is to keep an open mind during the job search. So don't become closed-minded where you start to not apply for opportunities. So keep an open mind during the job search process. I think that's so important. And that will also help you as the job search, of course, evolves. Number two, for do, keep your resume updated and handy. So you never want a opportunity to be presented to you and you not have your resume ready to send off. There are plenty of people now who have made it a side job, side hustle to tweak, critique, and edit resumes. So take advantage of that. If you are a recent college graduate, you can also, of course, hit up the Career Center on campus. They have tons of tools and resources for you to keep that resume on point. I would say a number one don't during the job search would be don't limit yourself. So if there's an opportunity that you see online and you don't feel like you can check all of the boxes off, I would still apply, because I can't tell you how many jobs I've applied for that I may not have met all of the requirements or the criteria that was set, but somehow landed the position. I mean, I know how, but we're gonna praise God for that. But just know that, like, don't limit yourself. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, take the leap and just simply apply. I mean, honestly, during the job search, it's not going to hurt for you to submit one more application. I know that the process typically is very tedious because you find yourself somewhat losing hope as the job search kind of extends itself. But just know that closed doors are blessings. So keep that in mind. I would also say don't apply for jobs through the job portal site. So like Indeed, I wouldn't recommend that you apply for jobs through there. I think Indeed is a great tool and resource for you to use to recognize what's out there and what's available, but I would go to the actual company that is hiring for that position to submit an application. I think it'll just make it easier, more easier for your name to pop up in regards to a possible interview opportunity. I would also say don't get discouraged. So typically in the job search, you feel like you're going through the motions because you've applied for so many opportunities back to back to back. But don't get discouraged. Know that eventually the opportunity is going to be presented to you. So everything else is simply just rehearsal for the big moment. So when it comes to interview, don't show up without having done research on the company or the department. So this is an error that a lot of people make by you just showing up because you think your skill sets are going to get you through the interview. You need to have done some research on the company and the department that you're trying to work in. If you can't speak upon the company's highlights or success, help me understand why you showed up to the interview itself. So make sure that you have done some research on not just the department, but also the company that you're trying to work for. I would also say don't give too much personal information during the interview. So I think sometimes people go into the interview trying to get brownie points or trying to sell a sob story. That may get you some sort of points, and it may get you, like, they may actually feel for you in your situation, but it's not going to help you land the position. So don't go in sharing all your personal information. It's an interview. Treat it as a business transaction, because that's really what it is. They have an opening. You have the skills to get the job done, so treat it as is, but don't go in sharing too much personal information. It may not make you look the most professional. So say in the interview, show up overdressed. So sometimes I think now, especially with like the climate that we're in, a lot of companies have went to a more relaxed, I would say, attire. You need to look the part, dress the part. So I would say you would much rather be overdressed than underdressed. And even if the vibe that you've heard through the grapevine is more chill or relaxed, you are not a part of the vibe yet. We're trying to get you in the vibe, in the mix. So do show up overdressed so that you look the part. And I would say in regards to dress, for women, it's important to know your body type so that you don't go in showing too much. Okay, so just know your body type and know what looks good on you. And I would also say that it's beneficial to remember names. So if at any point, in the interview, actually responding back to people in the question and saying, that's a great question, Brittany. I would love to talk about, my experience working for XYZ company and how I was able to lead the company to make the top 50 list. So things of that nature. I think it's important to be able to make those connections while you're on the site in the interview. And I would say definitely now, with a lot of interviews, of course, using some sort of virtual opportunity, it would be so important for you to address them by their name. Congratulations. Now that you've gotten the job, I would say don't get involved in the drama. So I think I say every company, but a lot of companies, if you work in departments, they just have drama on top of drama. And it's so easy, I think, to get tied into the mix. I would say mind the business that pays you. So if so-and-so from this department and so-and-so from that department are creating another so-and-so, like, none of that so-and-so affects my job, my work, or that check clearing at the end of the month. So I mind the business that pays me, and that also helps me have a more peaceful work environment because I don't know all of the ins and outs of people's personal life outside of work. So I would say don't get involved in any of the messy drama. I would also say don't come into the position overdoing it. So when you're new to a position or a department, I think everything that hasn't been done gets kind of thrown or tossed your way. Take advantage of the opportunities that you want to, of course, learn more about or, increase your skill set on. But honestly, if it's something that you're not familiar with or something that you don't honestly feel comfortable with, then I would recommend that you turn down the position. And I don't think that that makes you look bad, especially if it's not listed in your job description. And I know everyone's job description has other duties as assigned, but just make sure that any extra projects that you take, that you feel comfortable doing those projects so that it doesn't make you look bad in the end. I would also say on the job, a do would be to be honest. So I am probably one of the more honest people in my department now. But if we ever launch a new initiative or a new way to communicate and it's not working for me, and I notice that it's not working for others, I would be the first to bring it up during our staff meeting. Hey, I know that we wanted to, improve upon our communication efforts, but I don't think the system that we have in place is currently working. Do you think that we can go back to the drawing board and start from scratch? So I'm always the one to kind of bring up the highlights and the points. I would also recommend that as you're bringing up concerns.
Yes, I almost stopped recording to kill the fly.
Or issues, I would say that it's really important that you also have a solution to attach to the problem that you're addressing. So even if your solution is, of course, not the solution, you just don't want to always be the one to bring problems to the forefront. So bring some solutions as well. But I would say being honest is one of those top things that I would encourage you to do on the job. I would also say another to do is that you want to keep track of everything. So I'm talking about everything from the opportunities that you get, the projects that you work on, the committees that you sit on. I would also say you want to keep track of any time that something goes left. So you want to document the incident just so you have record to show on XYZ date, just in case you end up having to go have a meeting with HR. Hopefully it doesn't go that far, but if you have to go to HR, you actually have record to show, hey, I have been going through this, for this extended period of time. And here's my documentation. So I think it's important for you to have that list. I would say in regards to an exit strategy, don't share that you're about to leave with too many people on the inside. Especially if people on the inside want your position, it's going to be that much easier for them to encourage you and push you right on out the door. So I would just say find a friend, find a journal, call a family member to talk about how you're no longer happy in that position and what your plan is, but I wouldn't share with too many people on the inside. Because just know that everybody on the inside isn't rooting for you for real. I would also say don't get lazy or sloppy with your work towards the end, simply because what if you're gonna stay at the company but work at a different department? It doesn't take 2 minutes for someone from that department to call over to the department that you work in to say, hey, we're looking to hire Brittany for this position. Can you just give some feedback or, opinion on her work? And then I've been, slacking on my way out the door. So you don't want to set yourself up for failure at any point on the job. So while you're exiting or planning to exit, make sure that you continue to submit excellent work. With your exit strategy, you got to do what's best for you. So you know what your career goals are. You know where it is that you see yourself long term. So at the end of the day, if the company that you're working at is becoming toxic or just unhealthy, or it's no longer going in the direction that you're trying to go in, I would say be at peace about stepping out on faith and going a different direction. I've, did that a few different times as far as going into a different direction as far as where I'm working. So for those that don't know, I work in higher ed. I've been working in higher ed for 6.5 years now. I've had a wonderful run, with higher ed and on my higher ed journey. It's been great, but I've had to take some leaps of faith. And sometimes I felt very secure in the decision that I was making, and other times I wasn't really sure. But at the end of the day, it's always played out in my favor, and so I thank God for that. But just do what's best for you, right? And even if that means you have to leave doing something that you enjoy doing or something that you're passionate, but you're just being led in a different direction, like go ahead and take the leap. Because I think it's so much easier to show up doing that which without a shadow of doubt that you love and you're passionate about, because you don't ever feel like you're working. You simply feel like you are providing a service to others. I would also say in your exit strategy, have a list of references ready to go. Like you could send literally in an email. I don't know what that is. Have a list of references though ready to go, because if a job does call you for an interview and the phone interview goes well and they want your list of references, you need to go ahead and have that ready to send over. I would also say that you don't ever want to list someone as a reference that you don't actually have close contact with. So a lot of people use their previous employer or someone within the department from your previous job as a reference. I've never done that. And I'm not saying that you should follow my lead. I'm just saying I have probably used the same 3 references with every job opportunity. Just because they're trustworthy and I know that they'll speak well of me. You'd be really shocked at how many people think that their reference is going to speak highly of them and they end up giving them a very poor review. So I would just say keep it simple in regards to your references. At the end of the day, the company just wants to know that you're going to show up to work, and then when you get there, you're going to do the job. So don't get caught up into like high people being listed as your references, because if the position is for you, you just need someone to be able to speak well of your character and your work ethic. The question that I always get from people most though about my career journey is, how did I get to where I am now? And honestly, y'all, the question, the sauce is honestly, it's by faith. So I think you honestly have to get to a point where you recognize that as you're, I guess evolving and, growing, you're going to at some point be just allowed to walk through doors that you never thought you'd be able to walk through. Had you told me when I started my career journey I would be in the position that I'm in as an assistant director, I probably would have laughed at you, because I had no desire to work in this capacity or any desire to work in the division that I'm working in, or at least when I started my career. But the opportunity presented itself, and it has been just such a rewarding experience to be able to serve students and work with them in student life the way that I do. So I would just say that honestly, apply by faith, and then honestly keep it moving by faith. So just keep walking by faith on your career journey and stay encouraged would be my advice to you.